in the autumn of 1941, when the world teetered on the precipice of its second great unraveling, the Georgia State Sanitarium in Milledgeville stood as a monolith of forgotten souls, its brick facade stained by decades of Georgia red clay and the inexorable creep of Spanish moss, housed not just the mad, but the made mad, those sculpted by poverty, war, and the cruel alchemy of human frailty into vessels of something older, hungrier. The air there hung heavy with the scent of boiled cabbage and carbolic soap, undercut by a subtler rot, the slow exhalation of despair from 12,000 lungs, each breath a plea for oblivion. Dr. Elias Hawthorne, chief psychiatrist, had long since abandoned the illusion of cure. At 47, his once keen eyes were dulled by the parade of incurables, shell-shocked doughboys from the Great War, syphilitic spinsters clawing at invisible spiders, and the occasional prodigy of violence, like the boy they called Michael Myers. Not the Michael Myers, mind you, not yet the celluloid specter who would stalk silver screens decades hence, but a cipher, a name etched in faded ledger ink, born in the shadow of the boll weevil's blight, 1925, to a sharecropper's shack 10 miles east of LaGrange. Michael had arrived at Milledgeville in 1937, age 12, after gutting a playmate with a rusted hog knife during a game of Indians and settlers. The coroner's report was terse, death by exsanguination, no remorse observed, but it was the eyes that haunted the intake nurse, Miss Eudora Finch. Black as the pit, she confided to her diary that night, her quill trembling, not the eyes of a child, but windows to something vast and patient, like the hunger of the earth itself after a long frost. Hawthorne dismissed it as hysteria, female nerves he called it, but he noted the anomaly in the file, pupils dilated perpetually, unresponsive to light, affect null. For 4 years, Michael drifted through the wards like a specter in juvenile linens, mute save for the occasional rasp of breath that sounded to the orderlies like laughter swallowed whole. He ate without relish, slept without dreams, and when the restraints came, after he throttled a feral cat in the courtyard, its blood painting arcane sigils on the flagstones, his compliance was absolute. No struggle, no plea, just that stare, empty as the socket of a storm-drained sky, promising nothing and everything. Then, on October 17th, 1941, as Roosevelt's fireside chats crackled over the radio about the perils across the Atlantic, the locks failed, not by cunning or force. Oh no, Michael was no Houdini, but by the mundane betrayal of rust and neglect. A night watchman, drunk on bootleg corn liquor, left the East Wing's gate ajar. The boy slipped through at dusk, barefoot in a threadbare shift, vanishing into the pecan groves like smoke. Alarms wailed into the indifferent night, but by dawn the dogs had lost the scent. Hawthorne penned the official report. Escapee, Myers, M. Nonviolent, history exaggerated, potential for mischief low, recovery probable within 72 hours. He was wrong, dead wrong, and in the quiet mill town of LaGrange, 30 miles west, where the Chattahoochee murmured secrets to the cotton fields, the Empty Acre awaited. Chapter 1. The Harlan Place. The Harlan farm lay on the ragged hem of LaGrange's outskirts, where the Piedmont's red earth gave way to scrub pine and the skeletal arms of sycamores clawing at the harvest moon. It was no grand plantation, merely a sagging clapboard house with a tin roof that sang dirges in the rain, flanked by a smokehouse that reeked of hickory-cured despair, and a barn where the mule, Old Bess, wheezed her final breaths into the straw. Elias Harlan, 42, had sunk his life savings into this patch after the crash, dreaming of tobacco gold. Instead, he harvested debt, his calloused hands forever stained with the lie of fertile soil. His wife, Clara, 38, moved through the days like a ghost in gingham, her laughter long since leached away by miscarriages and the war's shadow. Her brother Tommy shipped off to Pearl Harbor rumors, her heart a hollow drum. They had one child who stuck, young Amos, 9, with his father's square jaw and his mother's doe eyes, forever chasing fireflies in the gloaming or whittling blasphemous shapes from pine knots, crude effigies of men with no faces, their limbs twisted in silent screams. It was Amos who first felt the wrongness. That Sunday eve in late October, the air had turned brittle, laced with the copper tang of impending frost, and the crickets had fallen silent 2 nights prior, as if choked by an unseen hand. He sat on the warped porch steps, skipping pebbles across the rain barrel's sheen, when the wind carried it. A rustle, not of leaves, but of fabric, coarse, institutional cotton, dragging through the underbrush. He froze, pebble mid-arc, his small chest hitching. From the tree line, 50 yards off, 2 eyes gleamed, not the reflective flash of raccoon or possum, but a flat, absorbing black, like oil slicks on a moonless river. "Mama?" Amos's voice cracked, thin as a switch. Clara, hulling black-eyed peas in the kitchen, paused at the screen door, her apron dusted with pod fluff. "What you hollerin' for, boy? Supper's in 10, and your daddy's expectin' that ham hock clean." But Amos pointed, finger trembling, and for a heartbeat, Clara saw it too. A silhouette, boy thin, half swallowed by the sumac. No wave, no retreat, just presence, heavy as a stone in the gut. She blinked, and it was gone, chalked it to nerves. The radio tales of crowd spies, the blackout drills that painted the town in ink. "Owl, most like," she muttered, ruffling his hair. "Get inside, for the witches snatch you." That night, as the family bowed heads over cornbread and collards, Elias recounted the sanitarium escape from the LaGrange reporter's front page, folded crisp beside his plate. Some poor adult boy slipped the net up Milledgeville way. Sheriffs got posses out, but they say he's harmless as a June bug. Just scared is all. Clara's fork scraped china, too loud in the lamplight's flicker. Harmless boys don't gut cats, Eli, or stare like the devil's own. Amos didn't eat. He drew circles in his beans, whispering to himself about the empty man in the trees, the one who breathed without sound, who watched without blinking. Elias laughed it off, deep and rumbling, but when he doused the lamps and led Clara upstairs, the floorboards groaned under an unfamiliar weight. Outside, old Bess stamped in her stall, her brays turning frantic, then gurgling into wet silence. By morning, the mule's throat was slit ear to ear, her eyes gouged to milky voids. No blood trail, no tracks in the soft loam, just a single pine shaving whittled to a needle's point, embedded in the stall door like a sacrament. Chapter 2. The Hollowing. The days blurred into a fever dream tableau, the Harlan place shrinking under an invisible siege. Elias nailed the barn shut, muttering prayers half remembered from his Baptist boyhood, while Clara took to salting the thresholds. Old conjure from her granny's lips, meant to bar haints and worse. Amos stopped sleeping, his eyes ringed purple, sketching the visitor in crayon on the walls. a stick-figure wraith in a shapeless shift, head a blank oval, arms ending in hooks that dripped black. The town buzzed with it, of course. LaGrange's gossips clustered at the Five and Dime or the picture show wove the escapee's tale into richer cloth. Milledgeville's vomiting up its demons. Old Mr. Thibodeau spat over his sarsaparilla. Boys got the mark of Cain on him. Kills without cause, they say. And them eyes. Christ, like looking into a grave that's looking back. Sheriff Harlan, Elias's third cousin, twice removed, paid a call on the third day, his Ford coughing dust up the rutted drive. He was a portly man, red-faced from moonshine and the weight of peacetime sins, his badge tarnished as his optimism. Heard about Bess. Damn shame, but tracks lead north, toward the river bottoms. Nothing to fret over here. Elias nodded, jaw tight, but Clara lingered by the door as the sheriff's taillights faded. Cousin or no, he ain't seen what we have. That thing out there, it ain't running. It's waiting, Eli, like a spider with a web the size of the county. That night, the first gift arrived. Pinned to the smokehouse door with a nail driven through its palm was a rabbit. Flayed, its fur a ragged cape, ribs splayed like the tines of a devil's fork. No entrails scattered, no mess, just precision, surgical, the work of hands that knew flesh as intimately as a butcher knows bone. Amos found it at dawn, his scream a shard of glass in the fog. Clara retched into the hydrangeas, and Elias burned the carcass in the yard, the flames leaping high, painting the pines in hellfire. But the smoke carried whispers, or perhaps it was the wind. Closer, it seemed to say, hollower. Amos began to change then, subtle as the tides creep. His whittling turned frantic, figures no longer faceless, but crowned with antlers of shadow, their bodies riddled with eyes that wept ink. He spoke to the walls in a voice not his own, flat, toneless, like stones tumbling in a well. He seized the red threads. The ones that pull Clara caught him once, at midnight, standing naked in the backyard, arms outstretched to the tree line, his small form bathed in moonlight that turned his skin to alabaster. The figure was there, again, closer now, 20 yards, unmoving, the shift clinging wet to limbs too long for a boy of 16. She dragged Amos inside, bolting the door, but the latch felt flimsy as faith. What does he want, Mama? Why us? Clara held him, rocking, her own terror, a serpent coiling in her belly. Nothing living wants, child. That's what makes it evil. Elias took to the shotgun, sleeping upright in the rocker, barrel across his knees. He dreamed of trenches he'd never dug, Verdun's mud sucking at his boots, the Huns' bayonets glinting like promises. In the dream, the enemy had no face, only that stare, and when he woke, sweat-soaked, the clock read 3:17 a.m., the witching hour when the veil thins and the hungry things slip through. On the fifth night, the power lines snapped, not by storm, the stars wheeled clear overhead, but by severance, copper wires snipped clean as a hangman's noose. The house plunged into Stygian dark, the kerosene lantern's glow a frail apostrophe against the void. Clara lit it with shaking hands, the flame dancing like a trapped soul, and they huddled in the parlor, Elias with the gun, Amos curled fetal at his feet, Clara murmuring psalms until her voice cracked. It began with scratches, faint at first, like a branch on tin, tracing the eave above the kitchen, then deeper, nails or claws, raking deliberate furrows down the siding, spelling nothing, meaning everything. The air grew thick, acrid with ozone, and the faint, sickly sweet of blood, new blood, warm and pulsing. "Stay put," Elias growled, rising, the shotgun's cock a thunderclap in the hush. He cracked the door, lantern held high, and stepped onto the porch. The beam swept the yard, empty, save for the smokehouse's silhouette, its door ajar now, swinging lazy on rusted hinges. A breeze slithered through, carrying the rabbit's echo, flayed flesh, but this time it was joined by something wetter, more human, a tongue lolling in the dark, or the drag of a lip split wide. Eli, Clara's whisper from within, laced with hysteria. He advanced, boots crunching gravel that sounded too loud, too final. The smokehouse yawned before him, black maw exhaling chill. Inside, the lantern revealed the altar. Not one rabbit, but three, plus a squirrel, a possum, and old Bess's severed ear, all arranged in a mandala of bone and pelt, petals of a charnel rose. At the center, propped like a votive, was Amos's latest whittling, the empty man, but now carved with exquisite malice, its blank face etched with Clara's features, eyes hollowed, mouth a rictus of splintered teeth. Elias retched, bile burning his throat, and that's when he heard it, the breathing, not from the smokehouse, but behind, close, intimate, a sigh against his nape. He whirled, shotgun swinging wild, but the porch was empty. The door, though, ajar, and from the house's heart, a child's voice, not Amos's, intoned. "The threads pull tight now, Daddy. Time to see." He ran, burst into the parlor, where Clara clutched the lantern, Amos limp in her arms, unconscious, or worse, his small chest rising in rhythm with the intruder's rasp. But no intruder visible, just shadows, lengthening, coiling like smoke from a snuffed wick. Then the window shattered, not with a crash, but a pop, glass bulging inward before erupting in a spray of shards that hung suspended, glinting like stars in eclipse. And through the frame crawled he, Michael Myers, 16 going on eternal, his shift crusted with mud and matter, limbs folding spider-like over the sill, barefoot, silent, the empty stare fixed not on Elias, but on Amos, claiming, knowing. Elias fired. The buckshot bloomed orange, stitching the boy's shoulder to ribbons, bloodless tatters that wept clear ichor. Michael didn't flinch, didn't fall. He rose, unhurried, the wound knitting in the lantern's stutter, flesh puckering like dough under a hot iron, sealing seamless. His head tilted, a puppet on frayed strings, and the rasp became words, dredged from some abyssal throat. "Family, mine now," Clara screamed, a primal keening that peeled paint from the walls and lunged with the lantern, smashing it against his chest. Kerosene bloomed, flames licking up his shift in greedy tongues, but he only watched them, impassive, as if fire were a lover's caress. Elias fired again, center mass, the recoil jarring his teeth, but the boy was upon him, hands like manacles of bone clamping his throat, strength unnatural, effortless, squeezing not to kill, but to hollow, air fleeing lungs, vision tunneling to that black stare, a void that swallowed light and spat back oblivion. Amos stirred then, eyes fluttering open, not brown, but oil slick, mirroring the intruders. "Papa," he murmured, voice doubled. "Let him in. He's cold." Elias clawed, nails raking furrows down Michael's arms that beaded no blood, only shadows that writhed like worms. Clara seized the poker from the hearth, driving it through the boy's eye. Pop, vitreous bursting in a spray that sizzled on the floorboards. Michael staggered. Finally, a puppet cut loose, collapsing in a heap of smoldering rags. But as Elias gasped air, coughing crimson, the body twitched, rose. The poker clattered free, the socket refilling with a wet schlup, pupil dilating to eclipse the iris. The threads, Michael intoned, closer now, breath like grave mold on Elias's face. They bind us all. Chapter 3. The Red Weave. Dawn broke bloody, the sun a hemorrhaging wound over the tree line, but the Harlan place slumbered in false peace. Michael had retreated, not fled, but withdrawn, like a blade from flesh to savor the wound's throb. Elias boarded the windows with oak planks pried from the barn, his hands splintered and numb, while Clara dressed Amos's fevered form, the boy muttering in tongues that twisted her gut, Aramaic echoes, or older, the gutturals of things that crawled from the clay before Adam's rib. They didn't speak of running. LaGrange was 20 miles of dust road, the sheriff's ford their only lifeline, but the phone lines dangled severed from the pole, wires gnawed to copper lace, and deep down, in the marrow of their terror, they knew Michael chose them. The Empty Acre wasn't happenstance, it was destiny, and not in the red weave, the mythic tapestry of bloodlines and curses that bound South Georgia's soil to its sinners. Clara uncovered the truth that afternoon, rifling through Granny's hope chest in the attic, dust motes dancing like damned souls in the slant light. Amid yellowed lace and lockets lay a journal, bound in cracked leather, penned in her forebear's spidery hand, Elias Harlan the Elder, 1873. Not her Elias, but a great uncle thrice removed, a circuit rider preacher who'd roamed the wiregrass preaching fire and flood. The entries spiraled into madness after a single night in '89 under a hunter's moon. The boy came from the sanitarium's shadow, though none called him such then, a wanderer, pale as bone, with eyes that drank the soul. He spoke of the weave, the crimson thread spun from Abel's blood, looping through time to claim the marked. I slew him thrice with silver and salt, but he rose, whispering my sins. The child I drowned in the baptistry, the wife I bedded with the deacon's blade. He is not man, but the hollow, the place where God turned away, and the other waited. Clara's blood iced, the Harlan name etched in that ledger wasn't coincidence. Michael's escape wasn't flight, it was homing, drawn by the echo of ancestral sin, the red thread pulling taut across generations. She showed Elias, the journal trembling in her grip, and for the first time, his engineer's logic cracked, face crumpling like wet newsprint. "We end it," he rasped, shotgun reloaded with buckshot blessed by Father O'Malley in town, a furtive errand at noon, the priest's eyes wide with forbidden lore. Fire and faith, burn the bastard out. But Amos, oh sweet Amos, had already begun to unravel. By vespers, his skin hung loose on his bones, pallid as vellum, veins threading black beneath. He carved no more, but bled designs, crimson sigils welling from his palms without wound, dripping to stain the floor in patterns that, when squinted at, formed faces, Granny's, drowned in the creek, Uncle Tommy's, bayoneted in France, and Michael's, eternal, beckoning. That night, the siege escalated. No longer content with scratches, Michael sang, not with voice, but with the house itself, floorboards moaning in dissonant harmony, walls weeping rust-colored tears that pooled in corners, tasting of iron and regret. Clara bolted awake at midnight, the air electric with his proximity, breath on her cheek, though the bed was empty, save for Elias's snores. She stumbled downstairs, lantern guttering, to find the kitchen door unbarred, ajar 5 inches. Beyond, in the yard, Michael waited, not alone, but multiplied. 3 figures now, or shadows of one, circling the well with deliberate, dance-like steps. Barefoot prints encircled the stone lip, deep as graves, leading into the dark throat of the earth. She slammed the door, heart hammering like a death knell, but the song followed, low, hypnotic, a dirge in no language, pulling at her marrow. Join us, weave the red, see the empty. Elias roused at her cries, shotgun blazing into the night, pellets shredding sumac and splintering the well's coping. A shape lurched, Michael, or his echo, clutching a phantom wound, dissolving into mist that reeked of camphor and decay. But the damage was sown. Amos, drawn by the shots, stood at the head of the stairs, eyes fully black now, smiling a smile too wide for his skull. "He's family, Mama," the boy said, voice layered with the intruder's rasp. "Come see the threads." Before they could reach him, Amos stepped forward, through the banister, his small body folding, compressing, slipping between the balustrades like water through sieve. He poured down the well's rope in the yard, a silhouette against the stars, and plunged. Splash, a wet thump far below, then silence, save for the faint, bubbling welcome. They hauled him out at first light, sodden and shivering, but unmarked, save for the sigils now tattooed across his chest in raised welts, pulsing with each heartbeat. "Deeper," he whispered, teeth chattering. "He showed me the hollow. It's under everything, waiting to fill us." Chapter 4, The Unmaking. By the 7th day, LaGrange itself began to notice, not the sheriff. No, Cousin Harlan dismissed the Harlan's frantic telegrams as hysteria, the war jangling nerves, but the fringes, trappers who skirted the Empty Acre, their hounds baying at phantoms, mill girls whispering of a pale boy glimpsed on the midnight shift, his stare curdling milk in the vats. The reporter ran a follow-up. Escapee. Scare. Boy sighted in West County. Citizens urged to report suspicious strangers, but the byline omitted the Harlan link, lest panic ripple through the ration lines. Elias and Clara, gaunt as scarecrows, fortified. Barbed wire laced the perimeter, crucifixes nailed above every lintel, holy water smuggled from St. Mary's, sprinkled in arcs of desperate piety. They chained Amos to his bed frame, the links biting his wrists, but he only smiled, humming that dirge, his body thinning, bones visible through flesh like branches under frost. Michael's visits grew bold, no longer nocturnal. He appeared at odd hours, a flicker in the hall mirror at breakfast, reflection lingering after the man turned, a handprint on the fogged window pane at noon, 5-fingered and child small, but with nails elongated to talons. Each sighting stripped a layer from their sanity. Clara's dreams turned prophetic. She birthed not a child, but a husk, empty-eyed and ravenous, suckling shadows from her breast until her veins ran dry. Elias, patrolling with the gun, fired at illusions until the barrel glowed cherry red, the recoil fracturing his shoulder. Yet the pain was distant, drowned in the greater ache. of inevitability. On the 9th night, the unmaking began in earnest. The house breathed with them, walls contracting like lungs, floorboards flexing underfoot as if alive with buried things. Clara, sleepless, wandered the kitchen at 2 a.m., the icebox humming a counterpoint to the dirge. She opened it for milk, but inside waited not cream, but eyes. Dozens, floating in vitreous orbs, staring up with Michael's blank accusation. They spilled across the linoleum in a tide of jelly, watching her retreat, their gazes burrowing into her skull like augurs. She screamed Elias awake, and together they mopped the horror away, only to find the eyes reforming in the bucket, multiplying, a hydra of judgment. Amos's laughter echoed from upstairs, tinny and triumphant. See? The weave tightens. Elias snapped then, storming the boy's room with axe in hand. Not the shotgun, but honest steel, consecrated in fire. The chain links parted like cobweb, Amos nowhere, until the ceiling dripped. He hung inverted from the rafters, body elongated, joints hyperextended, face inches from Elias's upturned horror. "Papa," he gurgled, mouth unhinging like a snake's. "Cut the thread, or join it." The axe swung wild, burying in plaster, and Amos poured again, down the wall, through the floorboards, a stain that slithered under the door. They chased it to the cellar, lantern casting grotesque puppets on the dirt walls, shelves of canning jars rattling like teeth, the furnace's maw belching heat that smelled of scorched hair. There, in the corner where spiders wove their doomsday tapestries, Michael waited, properly, for the first time. No shift now, but naked, skin the color of bone ash, body a map of scars that wept not blood, but memory. Gashes from the hog knife, burns from Hawthorne's therapies, each a portal flickering with vignettes of pain. The playmate's gurgle, the cat's spasm, the endless, eyeless dark of the hollow. He held Amos like a doll, the boy limp and larval in his arms, black eyes adoring. "The weave completes," Michael said, voice a chorus of stolen timbres, Amos's treble, Clara's alto, Elias's baritone, layered in dissonance. Harlan blood for Harlan's sin. The drowned child cries no more. Clara lunged, nails raking his face, furrows that sealed instantly, flesh bubbling like tar. Elias swung the axe, cleaving deep into Michael's shoulder, bone parting with a crack like thunder. The boy staggered, dropping Amos, who crumpled, twitching. But as the halves separated, something spilled. Not viscera, but threads, crimson filaments, pulsing with arterial rhythm, snaking across the dirt to coil around their ankles, wrists, throats. They pulled taut. Clara felt it first, the sin unearthed, her miscarriages replaying in visceral flood, tiny forms, blue-lipped, clawing from her womb to accuse. "You let us go cold," they wailed, voices in the threads. Elias choked on his own ghosts, the sharecropper's daughter he'd tumbled in 1929, her belly swelling, then stilling by his hand, the thread yanking secrets from his lungs. Michael watched, unblinking, as they danced the marionette's jig, bodies jerking, mouths foaming litanies of guilt. "Empty the vessel," he intoned, stepping forward, hands extended like a benediction. "Fill with the hollow." Amos rose behind him, no longer child, but vessel, eyes empty, stare absolute, knife in hand, the hog blade passed down the weave. He drove it into Clara's back, precise, between vertebrae, severing the spine with a lover's kiss. She crumpled, gurgling wet, vision fracturing into red fractals, but in her last clarity, she saw the truth. Michael wasn't killer, but catalyst, the hollow's hand, threading sin to sin, birthing boogeymen from the banality of evil. Elias roared, axe burying in Amos's skull, crunch, brains blooming gray on the blade. The boy fell, but Michael smiled, a rictus splitting ear to ear, teeth elongating to fangs of ivory. More threads, he whispered, lunging. The fight was brief, brutal, axe blows raining, each landing true yet futile, wounds sealing in sprays of shadow. Elias's arm parted at the elbow, stump cauterizing in agony, ribs cracked open like a book, heart exposed and hammering defiance. Yet Michael's hands found the throat, squeezing, the black eyes inches away, vast now, abyssal, swallowing the lantern's flame. See, he breathed, and Elias did. The hollow, a chasm beneath the world, woven of every unconfessed murder, every buried shame, threads infinite, crimson and insatiable, pulling all to the center, where faces screamed in silence, bodies hollowed to husks, waiting eternal for the next vessel. The light dimmed. Elias's last thought, not the boy, the empty. Epilogue. Echoes in the weave. LaGrange awoke to silence on the 10th day. The Harlan place stood gutted, windows blind with boards, doors yawning like screams. Sheriff Harlan arrived at noon, shotgun primed, but found only husks. Clara's form twisted in the cellar, spine arched in rigored prayer. Elias slumped against the furnace, throat a purpled wreath, eyes gouged to recall Michael's stare. Amos, poor Amos, hanging from the rafters, gutted stem to stern, his whittling scattered like confetti from hell. No sign of the boy, no blood beyond the families, pooled in patterns that to the coroner resembled nothing so much as knotted yarn. The reporter buried it on page 7, tragic farmhouse, Suey, side packed, despondency blamed on escape, scare. Hawthorne, up in Milledgeville, filed the escape as recovered, deceased, a lie to soothe the ledgers, though his dreams now echoed with that rasp. The weave pulls on. Decades later, in 1978, a filmmaker in California, haunted by a psych ward's ghost boy, would name his monster Michael Myers. He'd claim no Georgia roots, but in the cutting room, late nights with reels unspooling, he'd feel it, the thread, crimson and insistent, tugging from the red earth, the stare that wasn't his invention, but inheritance. And in LaGrange, on empty acres where cotton withers unharvested, the wind still carries scratches, not branches, but nails, not dirges, but whispers, family, mine now, see the empty, the hollow waits, patient, eternal, for the next knot to tighten.